Alright, children, welcome to another little podcast, here with your boys. I am Sterling Silver. How you doing? I'm doing fine. With us we have Josiah Biggs. How you doing? Who are you again?
I am, the old movie nerd. I nerd out over old movies. Look me up at oldmovienerd.blogspot.com.net and just check out things. There, I've got a basement full of old movies. It's set up to be like a movie rental shop. No one else has ever done it like that. Also, I have a dog, and her name is Porky's, after the famous film Porky's.
Of course.
So, yeah, that's me.
And, last and certainly most least, the illustrious guest, Matthew Ferrigo. How you doing, my boy?
You ruined me. You ruined me so badly that I'm going to leak all of this fine ham and casserole from Canadian Thanksgiving all over the floor. You've gouged a hole in my beautiful, beautiful body. I don't know what to make of it.
Oh boy.
I am Matt, and it's good to be back on the podcast. I was preoccupied last week, folks. Please excuse that. Good to be back in the saddle today.
That Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
JoJo.
JoJo's
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by Hirohiko Araki. Part 5, Golden Lad.
Golden Boy. Also known as the Golden Boy anime.
Yep,
He arrives in Italy and sees a bunch of fentanyl hanging around, and he's like, I'm not a fan of this. Gotta get all this fentanyl out.
I guess we'll go right into it. Episode 2.
Sorry for those of you who the joke just went over your head. Fentanyl is a big drug that we're having quite a problem with here in Canada right now. It's basically it's like heroin, if I recall correctly, similar in our property, except a bit worse. And oh man, that's a bad drug. Trying to get that out. Just like Giorno would have done.
Yep. Just like DiGiorno would have done.
DiGiorno's pizzas.
Yeah, so, episode 2. Before that, since you weren't here, Matthew, what were your thoughts on episode 1 of, DiGiorno's Bizarre Adventures, Part 4?
DiGiorno's Bizarre Delivery Service.
Yeah, so we're talking about Goblin Slayer episode 1, right?
Yeah. I liked the Mercy killing because it showed how wholesome and beautiful the Goblin Slayer actually is deep underneath all that heavy armor. What a wonderful man. There's not too much to say about Vento Ario. At the very least, not for episode 1. It's all a nice bit of recap because for those of us who don't skip parts, we are already quite up to date on the going-ons of this era of JoJo. My interests are more focused on 2 because I had forgotten a lot about Giorno's childhood. And since we didn't even get the opening or ending in usual JoJo fashion, I can't even touch base on that. So there's not really much to say. I appreciate the way that the episode handled expressing how Giorno is essentially made to be a thug with a heart of gold. He'll give you a bit of a hand in your time of need, and if you're a good enough person, he'll catch on to this. He's a tough lad to fool, but there's no saying that he's not going to take compensation for his good deeds. Like, listen, if he wants to dip into your wallet just a tiny bit, it's a tiny little bit of a payment for getting pushed around and getting your situation dealt with.
Gotta pay that Game Boy tax. Tax the Game Boys.
Yeah,
these shirts with the
something
come
to pay for that.
Preset in them are pretty expensive. Why do the holes come in the shirts like this? Is this how Italian fashion works?
Yes, very much so.
And that's it. That's all that really needs to be said about JoJo Vento 1.
Uh-huh.
It was alright.
Yeah.
The animation starting relatively strong. I've got no comments there. See, yeah, it's good.
Uh-huh. So you didn't have any extreme problems with it?
I have no extreme problems with it, and also no huge heaps of like, oh shit, this is incredible. Either way, it was pretty par for the course.
Yeah.
Are we really just gonna walk? Are we just gonna walk past and not say howdy to the obvious Easter egg that Fred Frog played in this episode?
Well, Fred Frog has lived a outrageously long life of about 100 years now.
More than 100 years, boy.
How long is it now? It's been like.
Oh, okay, so let's go back here. Let's see. Okay, so we got Jonathan, we got his son George, we got Joseph, and then we've got Holly, and then we've got Jotaro, and then we've got Joseph gives birth. Well, no, he doesn't, but his seed to Josuke, and then from Josuke, his junior is then Giorno. Even though Giorno is technically, like Jotoro's like great-great-grandfather, but or great-great-uncle or something. I don't know.
I think that it's been about 110 to maybe 120 years since Phantom Blood. So, yeah, it's getting on to be about that. Friend Frog makes his triumphant return. I'm sorry, I forgot to give him his due credit. But all in all, the animation was fairly strong in the few moments where it decided to show itself off, but there wasn't much to speak about. I did like the nice trick moment where the beautiful butterflies turned into liar bills. That was a very nice, smooth transition. Beyond that, not much to say about JoJo 1. It was pretty nice. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see. I guess I'll tackle episode 2. Its little summary. So, alright. We start off with the biggest bang for a lot of people. Maybe not me included, but that opening, oh boy. That opening is quite something. It's Bloody Stream 2 announced. With what's it called? Gold something? Gold.
Yeah, boy Coda. It's your boy Coda back at it again.
It's Fighting Gold.
Yeah, Fighting Gold.
Right.
It's new Hershey's Fighting Gold.
Yes. And
let's go down to brass tacks here. So let's go. Okay, so we got two metrosexual Italian men fighting it out without hardly moving on a subway car, an above subway car, above ground. And so we got Bacardi rum, and he's going up against DiGiorno's Pizza. As we know, Araki always names all of his characters after famous food and drink. So
that's correct.
And of course, we got the blonde boy, and he's got his dazzling stand, which he erotically holds in one place in a scene. Standing behind him in a very erotic position is Golden Wind, and of course Zipper Man, the man from Japan.
Yep.
Slightly less erotic, but that unzipping sound still a bit sexy all the same.
Are you telling me a man that can make a hole from anything is anything but sexy?
Can slip right out of this train car and into your heart.
Quite literally.
Put his fingers in your mouth. You can't stop him.
Put someone else's fingers in your mouth. Fuck you. Can't do anything about it.
It's like, oh man, I'm making out with this little boy. Nope, it's Bacardi.
So alright, we get a huge backstory on who Giorno is and how he was shaped through his life because of gang
Yeah.
stars.
Somehow he was abused up until the age of 5, and then some lone gangster just changed his whole outlook on life before he really had any like understanding on how the world works.
Yep.
So
He's got
that's
that.
that's what made him want to become a gang star. Quotation
I
mark.
love it. I love it. It's such a good name.
That's so Japanesey.
I mean that quite seriously. I love the fucking goofiness of the name Gangstar.
I mean, Araki woke up in cold sweat one night in, gosh, like the early not even early 2000s, but the late 90s, and was like, Gangstar. Gangstar.
Gangnam Style.
But, no, yeah, so we get the backstory. Jordan was left alone as a child because his mom is a tramp. And guess what? You know, because she slept with Dio. A huge leap there.
Yep.
And so he was completely isolated and abused by not getting any attention when he was younger. His mom got married, then moved to Italy. His father just then beat him for no reason, really.
Not
Except
so
for
much.
he didn't like the way he looked, so I mean, I guess that's something. And then he's what was it? The quote is, and then Giorno lied for the first time that day
He did.
and saved the gangstar's life. Who happened to be the mafia boss of the territory that Giorno lived in. So the gangster started favoring him and helping him out and this and that, and all Giorno's troubles went away. And that's when he decided, hey, I want to shoot people and sell cocaine for the rest of my life.
That's the end of the story. He just went on to become a petty thug. There you go. That's JoJo. No, that's not true at all. He went on to become a lovable hero. Who now
Lovable is pushing it a little bit.
who wants to cleanse Italy of every last ounce of
No, now see, if that was a plot, that'd make it a little more interesting. But unfortunately, our main character, DiGiorno, he's just a insert yourself here MC. That's really how he is. I mean, he gets his backstory, but after this, he just kind of goes with the flow because he's Gary Stu.
He's kind of a golden lad. He's gold and everyone likes him. Except for one member of the Gangstar crew who won't stop shouting at him. But we'll get into that later, don't you worry. Sterling, what are your thoughts on Mr. Giovanna?
Giovanna?
Giovanna.
You mean DiGiorno?
Don't forget to do the Italian fingers as you're doing your review of
yes.
a Giorno here.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm gonna have to trust you here. You're doing it.
Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but hopefully I am.
Who knows?
Maybe I have fingers, maybe I don't.
You can't rule that out. Yeah, you're
I
right.
have stubs for hands. Well, so far I like his stand ability. I think it's overpowered, but it's fun to watch so far.
Oh, you think Golden Experience is overpowered right now?
Oh, yeah, I know.
No, we talked about this last episode of people would listen to the podcast.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. If only someone who was a part of this podcast would listen every once in a while.
Just take an hour out of his week.
Yeah. He might have learned something, but we'll just say that I know a whole lot about Part 4 when it comes to Part 5.
This is Part 5.
Part 5, cough cough, when it comes to Requiem and stuff like that.
Shooting yourself in the dick.
Yeah. Oh boy. But yeah, so far I like how they're explaining it. Because it's very It can
This
become
way-
very confusing and can be very forgetful after a while.
Yes, this is where the battles become very tedious, and it's hard to animate because of the way that the manga illustrates everything. So they're doing a good job so far.
When I saw the first time of the, I guess, mind berserk power that he has,
Well, the extra senses.
yeah, that was kind of jarring. Like, what the heck is happening? But then it like explains it quickly after like it extremely gets
It
done.
doesn't
with
hold
what
it too
it's-
long, yeah.
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 And it's not like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What the heck? And then, oh, okay, that's what? Okay, all right, now it makes sense. And, yeah.
I actually found that the anime did a better job of explaining that part of a Gold Experience quite a bit than the manga, because I remember reading the manga and thinking to myself, what the fuck are they getting at here with this? Now, this might have been just like a bad scan that I was reading.
There are a lot of bad scans of Part 5, so...
Yeah, so this could have been it. Who knows?
Yep. But yeah, nothing too extreme in that part. Nothing like, oh, I don't understand this part or anything like that. Like, everything's pretty much explained away very greatly, detailed and stuff like that. Although, what's his name? Bruno?
That's his last name, but yeah, we can call him Bruno Mars, yeah.
His stand feels a bit underutilized with what I've seen that he could do.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
as time goes by and things happen, he becomes much better at it. Like Kakyoin, so only, you know, Bruno actually does things. But no, yeah, it's just a basic usage right now, because you'll find out that, I mean, Bruno's only had to stand a while as well, just like all the other guys, because they, you know, they get the, well, we'll see that in episode 3, but hopefully.
Yeah.
Whoever keeps doing the scans that I'm watching keeps sending out the teaser for the next episode, so I'm really upset with that, but...
yeah. Same.
I mean, it's not like I don't know what's coming. It's just like I want to know, like, kind of the scope of what we're going to be doing next. You know.
Sure.
But,
yeah. But I kind of like the being not really spoiled on any extreme scenes.
Yeah.
Better than that. Yeah. So what are your guys' thoughts on all this stuff? Anything that was extremely point-outable for you? For me. Was of course the fight scenes. They were fairly well animated until they get to like the shot for shot sliding animations of just like, oh, here's that little picture. But for a while it was pretty well animated and for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's still well starting out. Of course, the battles only get more grandiose after this, so we'll see. This is just like basic fare. But really what I'm just looking forward to is the candle episode. Just like everybody else, so at least I'm pretty sure everybody else is looking forward to the candle episode, who knows about the candle episode, so right now it's all just a bunch of backstory and explaining, and basically at this point it's very meaningless fights. Oh no, is JoJo gonna die in the first 3 episodes? Oh my god, you know. It's like you've been on this ride before, but then they just like changed out like the models, you know. And so, not saying it's not a good anime, not saying it's not gonna be a good show. It's just, you know, at the beginning, this isn't what sinks your teeth into it. This is just the, you know, the stage set for the play. And so there's not really a lot to report right now because they're not doing a terrible job with it, because Day Production does a good job so far. They might slip, who knows? It's definitely possible. But at this point, it's just smooth sailing, and everybody's just hype about the things to come and how well or how not well they'll animate some of the more tedious scenes. But
you can already tell that the Mr. Aeroplane is CGI'd. But yeah. There's going to be a lot of CGI.
Well, it'll probably be half and half. They'll probably cell shade them like some of the time, maybe not all the time. And I assume Sex Pistols will also be CGI'd at some point because it's a lot of moving parts on the screen.
Maybe the bullet itself, but maybe the.
I don't know. I think those characters 3D model, plaster on there with some special glue.
Maybe.
We'll see. I mean, there's nothing set in stone. I mean, the only thing we saw was from the opening, and that's never really telltale of a JoJo. So,
this new opening was weirdly less symbolic as far as foreshadowing future events was than previous JoJo openings, which struck me, which was a pretty weird.
Is there
thing
any
for me.
extreme meaning with the chains at all?
Well, there wasn't that much.
That's symbolic, but it's not like foreshadowing.
Yeah, there's not much foreshadowing going on.
But then again, like part 1 and part 2 were so short. I mean, like it's not really foreshadowing because you get there in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And then part 4, I mean, like nothing in the first episode was really foreshadowing. I mean, like that much.
You're talking about the OPs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town, yeah, there wasn't much going on there. I will agree. That primarily kicked off when Chase.
Yeah, Chase U showed up a whole bunch of stuff that it shouldn't have, which made people really excited.
Of course.
It's good because that OP wasn't that great compared to the others, but
I can agree with that.
But no, I think the biggest thing is everybody was upset about the ending.
The ending of.
Yeah. The ending.
Yeah. I didn't have any hopes for anything extreme, but this was like, oh wow, really?
Okay, so the biggest debate with the whole JoJo what's going to be the ending theme is because they've done such a good job so far, and then they're just kind of throwing curveballs now because. No, okay, so the people who own JoJo or the rights to the anime in Japan
Yes.
is connected with Universal Japan. And so they have access to Universal America. And so Universal Studios is one of the biggest licensing agencies of music in the United States besides Sony. And so, I mean, like with part 4, like they could have gotten All-Star by Smash Mouth because Universal holds that license. They still have to ask them and pay some royalties, but they still it wouldn't have been that far of a stretch. They wouldn't have had to go out their way. And don't get me wrong, I like Soundgarden.
Yeah.
I think it was appropriate, but for this, like there's such a huge moniker of music that you can go through, and then to choose something like. Gosh, it's just it boggles because it doesn't really support the series tone at all.
As well as since part 4's was the Soundgarden or whatever it's called, but it was like the entirety of that whole thing, like it didn't have an ending change at all. I'm kind of worried that this might also not be changed at all.
Because they're about the same length.
Yeah,
we were lucky enough to get 2 with Star 3. Yeah, because we had Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bengals, and then we had Long Train Home by whoever that is. I can't remember.
It's the Bengals.
No, not the Bengal. I mean Long Train Home.
Oh yeah, Pat Metheny Band.
That's it. But I mean, it seems like they got the gangster part right. It's just it's a weird thing to start out a JoJo ending, and within the first lines he talks about being horny. So
I mean,
listen, if there was a time to pick that as your Vento ending, I guess it would have to be as early as possible in the series, because like most parts of JoJo go, this is just going to get far more dire as things pick up. So hopefully we do get a second ending, and if we do, this was the time to pick this, if at all. But yeah, I will agree that it was a bit of a strange pick.
I mean, I'm not here to say that it's not a good song. I mean, I like the song in context, but the ending of my JoJo, it's a little too bizarre.
Yeah.
So, so far so good. JoJo's living up to the hype.
So I guess all of us are pretty much all in agreement that the second episode was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing really to complain about yet. Yet.
Nothing big to complain or talk about, really.
We're just getting started. That's
Yeah.
alright.
Okay, Matthew, you watched a film recently, and I believe it was for the first time. Can you tell us about
Tarantula 2.
Yes, no, Return of the Living Dead?
I can I can tell you about Return of the Living Dead. There's actually
So was
no,
I
I
right
can't-
that this is the first time you've seen it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, that was a very confident bluff that fell apart very quickly because no, I can't tell you much about Return of the Living Dead.
Have you
Because
seen
it's-
any other of the Dead movies before?
Oh,
that?
I mean, this one isn't part of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Dusk of the Dead.
Yeah. I like don't get it twisted whatsoever. Like I'm no big zombie horror kind of aficionado kind of fella here. But
You're
I
telling
watched
me you
it and
haven't
it was
watched
fine enough.
Zombies?
I've also seen Day of the Living Dead, the original. No, wait, sorry. Was the original the Night of the Living Dead? It's been years. I
Yes,
can't recall.
the original film by George Romero was Night of the Living
Perfect. Thank you.
and then it'd be Dawn of the Dead, and then there was a stupid remake in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Day of the Dead, which was
yeah,
Gorillaz
Yep.
did a song about the opening.
yeah, and then there's Dusk of the Dead,
And
then there's Night of the Living Dead 2, Electric Boogaloo,
then Land of the Dead. Oh boy.
and then Zombies in the Sky, a true documentary.
That one's my favorite. No, though. Night of the Living Dead I saw many years ago, and that is, to the best of my knowledge, the only
Time you've seen a
Living
black
Dead.
actor take the lead role. I understand.
Yes. It's
Yes.
not too often that I get exposed to these crazy things. We're not quite as cultured over in Canada. We're kind of
I
behind.
know. I only saw 2 Afro Americans. Quite shocking because I see at least 16 driving to work every day.
Oh man.
Not that I count.
No. You would never do that.
That would never count.
Night of the Living Dead I enjoyed back when I saw it for what it was worth, which nowadays, by especially by the standards of special effects, is almost nothing. But it was fine for the time as far as kicking off zombie movies were concerned. Night of the Living Dead. Sorry, fucked that up. Return of the Living Dead establishes a lot more of the charming classic zombie tropes that we understand now that we have just affiliated with zombies pretty much entirely, where the whole grunting for brains thing, for example, stemmed from this movie.
I don't think you really understand, Matthew, that there are several
It
zombie
stemmed from
films
this.
before this film. This film came out in the 80s. After several of the George Romero films have come out, but this is the only zombie film, to my knowledge, in which they're completely indestructible.
Yeah, I believe so.
This is what sets this film apart.
Yes, very much so.
Now that I think about it, I can't recall any others, so you have a point there, yeah?
And the thing is that this one's remembered most for the brains because they gave a reason for the brains. This was not the first movie. There's plenty of George Romero knockoffs that already had established the brain trope. This is just one of the biggest ones because it explains why they have the brain trope in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of emptiness, yes.
No.
Am I already forgetting?
You are misremembering. That is what
that I have.
You are fake news, my friend.
This is why I watch anime episodes the day that we review them, because apparently my media memory is not the strongest.
You gotta start sharpening that stone, man. The zombies eat brains because it helps them relieve the pain of being dead.
Right, I had forgotten. Please excuse me.
Thank you. You're excused.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yes. As I pointed out, there's really not too much more to continue on. I didn't really take away all that much as far as overall impact. No, I did, just not in the sense of like, wow, that was a great movie. Let's sit down with the boys and shoot the shit and talk about how great it was. I don't have much to talk about. Return of the Living Dead. I appreciated how outrageously stupid it was, but at the end of the day, it was more of just a fun romp for me without much for me to take away from it. If you brought it up because you particularly enjoyed this movie for some reason, then don't get me wrong, that's great. But
I brought it up last week because I'd seen it, but I didn't talk about it too much because I wanted to get your impressions of it with your first impression, your first press.
My first impression of Return of Living Dead is that it's like a 5 out of 10 zombie movie.
Ooh boy, why you hate it so much?
I don't hate it. I honestly don't hate it. It was just very mediocre. It didn't really stick out to me for any very good reason.
Like you said, you're not a very big zombie aficionado, because the thing about this movie is it takes everything and cranks it up to 10. That's why it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
If you've seen other zombie films besides the George Romero classics, which are important for different reasons and have very good world building and character development, for a movie that completely ignores those facts and just cranks all the outside factors to 10, it's entertaining because of how ridiculous it is, because there's no way out, because nobody survives, because the zombies are indestructible, and like literally you have to burn them into ashes to get rid of the remains. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even
I mean, honestly, if they're thinking smart, they wouldn't have ever cremated it. They would have just poured the poor guy that they chopped up and just put him in cement and just solidified him.
Yep.
Yeah.
But how were they to know?
Wait, which poor guy that they chopped up are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just rabid weasels. Come on.
Okay. And then the other thing is that you can catch the zombie virus without even bitten.
It's true. If you just got that zombie gas, then just
If you vape that zombie juice.
Yep.
that's a strong trip, man.
Yep.
It's nothing to laugh at.
No, but as far as zombie films go, is entertainment value. Just alone, this is quite far up there because there are a lot of unentertaining zombie films.
I'd be willing to bet that, seeing as the craze used to be quite a lot bigger, I'm willing to bet this tried to get milked for more. But as I pointed out, I don't have too much history with the genre itself, to be quite honest with you, or the subgenre rather. My history of zombie movies, it's quite thin. The only memorable one to me was Shaun of the Living Dead, and we can't even compare that because that's a whole new genre.
You mean Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah.
That's a big old comedy. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a parody of the films, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, indeed.
Like Hot Fuzz is a parody of police investigation films.
That's true. So yeah,
Okay.
as a man who has almost no zombie background. There's not much to say about good old Return of the Living Dead, quite honestly. It was alright,
Well, that's
but
fine.
not particularly great in any way to me.
It didn't have a chick with a rocking body. It didn't have great practical effects. It didn't, have an original story that really kind of pushed the boundaries of it. It did, but it's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think good might be pushing this a bit.
Oh boy, get off my podcast right now. Well, I watched some scary movies in my search, just my random Spooktober watch list.
Uh-huh.
I'm going through on Amazon. Let's see. The first one that I watched was Deep Star 6.
Star 6?
Yeah, Deep Star 6.
Oh.
It came out around the time as Leviathan and The Abyss.
Okay.
So it's basically a deep sea alien thriller. And so Deep Star 6. There are people. For some reason, the U.S. Army is or Navy or Marines or somebody is putting missile silos on the bottom of the ocean. Secret missile silos. And so there is a whole team that goes down there and excavate sites and put down these missile silos. And so you get to know the cast and the crew a little bit and this and that and how they interact, and it's a good, like, campy, group, kind of like Alien. And so you got the marine biologist, you've got the engineers, you've got the pilot, the submarine pilots who do it, you got the construction workers, and then you got the captain, and then you've got some of the brains behind it, like the higher up officials, the people who have the doctorates and this and that, who aren't engineers but are overseeing the project. And so they go and they're putting in the last missile silo, and apparently they're 4 months behind schedule due to unforeseen circumstances or a hurricane or something like that. And so they find out there's a cave. Somehow they finally did soundings and found out there's a very deep cave under where they want to put the missile silo. And because they're already weeks behind, the head doctor on the team says, "Oh, just blow it up and fill it in with rubble." And that's when they unleash the creature, and then they have to start fighting it. And unlike all the other films that came out, this one is actually a crustacean or arthropod type creature, which is a really big breath of fresh air compared to all the other, like, fish, shark type monsters that came out from this era. And so it's definitely a giant puppet, which is nice, although it has very limited movements. And it gets electrocuted like 3 or 4 times, like really bad. Like it just doesn't ever want to seem to die, except for whenever the main character hits it with gasoline and lights on fire. When they finally make it up to the surface, like you always do in the film, and then it reaches that Jaws moment,
Yep.
And so somehow fire kills it, even though it's been underneath the sea for like 100,000 years. But and it's a crab. But
So is this crab like huge or like human
yes,
size?
it's quite large. It's quite large. It's about I want to say it's about 15, 20 feet tall.
It's a hell of a crab, man.
The thing is that it, like a crab, it can compress itself to get into smaller areas. And so it's quite a skilled hunter. Like there's not many jump scares in this film, but it tries to fake you out a couple times. Which is nice.
Yep.
It's very refreshing to see. Oh no, and then something actually happens. But in the end, main guy, main girl get it out, and everyone's just survived. So it's quite the interesting alien ripoff Under the Sea. But next movie I saw was Abominable, which is a 2018 film. It's basically a Rear Window with a Sasquatch.
Yeah, you saw that.
So there's a man who's recently paraplegic, and he goes back up to his house. He and his wife used to rent this cabin up in the woods, and he has a caretaker right now because he's emotionally damaged and physically damaged. His wife and him were rappelling down what's now called Suicide Point in the area because they were big. They mountain climbed, in their free time on vacation and such like that. And so something happened. It was a blur, and somehow he's the only one who survived because the support got cut, and then he fell on a small cliff next to it, the edge of the mountain, and the drop that they fell, and unfortunately his wife didn't make it. Yes. And so it's basically unraveling through this whole, and then there's an adjacent cabin because it's like a rental property, and it's filled with high school. It's filled with sorority girls. Who are out there to get away from their boyfriends for a while and just relax in the wilderness.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, none of this wheelchair accessible. And so he's basically our main character just basically stuck in the main part of the cabin. And so he starts noticing strange things. He starts getting flashbacks to his helper went into the city to get some groceries, or the town, or the general store, or whatever. And then he starts seeing the girls pull up and this and that, and he's like, "Oh, hi," and they say and that, and he's got these binoculars, and so it goes throughout the movie, and then there's also a subplot with these hunters. It doesn't matter because they die within like 30 minutes of the film. But basically, through his flashbacks, he recounts seeing the eyes of he eventually sees the eyes of the Sasquatch, and it freaks him out, and he starts trying to alert the girls, and the girls just think that he's a horny peeping Tom for like half the film, until they start being picked apart by the monster. And the monster is really well done. He's also about 12 feet, 13 feet tall, has great practical effects. There's only a couple CGI sequences when the Sasquatch is in the bushes, or like CGI eyes in the forest every once in a while, which isn't too bad. But basically, the guy realizes that there was something out there that night, and he had mentally blocked it, but it was the Sasquatch. And so, eventually, only one of the girls survives with him, and then out of 5 girls, it all just get dead. Like, one of them gets pulled out of a window, like her spine breaks, and she just gets pulled out of a window by the Sasquatch. It's got some pretty good kill shots.
Cool.
The guy his service helper wakes up after being knocked out, and then puts an axe to the back of the Sasquatch. It doesn't kill him though, and so the Sasquatch just grabs his head, and then he grabs his shoulders, and then bites the bottom of his chin and the top of his head, and just clean cuts his head in half and just eats it. And it's one of the best scenes I've ever seen like that in cinema. I can't tell you how good it is.
I wanna check out this kill right now, honestly.
But so like great. I give it a 10. Like it's really good. It was a breath of fresh air. Like it started out really campy and really cheap looking, and then as it went on, it got really good and really more convincing. Like the main character is, he reminds me.
Yes.
He reminds me so much of Michael from The Office. It's not even funny. Not just the way he looks, but like the way he acts, and like. Even though he's paraplegic, like there's just this little bit of him that it's so much like this character that Steve Carell plays in The Office. It's so weird, but he doesn't have huge shenanigans or any weird things like that. But like the serious moments where Michael does things, it's just like this guy, and it's uncanny.
All right.
Okay.
Josiah, you said this was a 2018 film, right?
Should be, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I'm getting some results, but this was from a 2006 film, so I just wanted to...
No, not the 2006 film.
Gotcha. Okay.
At least that's what Amazon said.
Oh no,
Let me double check. No, yeah, it's 2000. Oh no, it's 2006. Never mind.
Woo!
Okay.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I guess Amazon lied to me. Okay. But
I heard you watched a Gremlins ripoff of some sort.
Oh, this sounded stupid and fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, first, okay, I watched the original Ghoulies. Now, I never seen the original Ghoulies. I've only seen Ghoulies 1 and Ghoulies 2. Ghoulies 2 takes place in Carnival, and Ghoulies 3 takes place at a fraternity house.
Of course, as one does.
And they get more comical as they go on, but the first Ghoulies is actually pretty serious, as far as I can go. And it's much more like into Satan worshipping than I realized. So it's hard to say this real knockoff of the Gremlins. It's kind of like they just had the, because originally Ghoulies, the script was written first. They started shooting a year before Gremlins did, but Gremlins produced the films faster and got it out before Ghoulies. And so it's kind of like they both just kind of had the idea around the same time. But yeah, Ghoulies is completely different because it's not really focused around the monsters. The monsters are just kind of there. It's the later films focus around the monsters, but this first film is really just about necromancy and a lineage of necromancers, of which this guy is, and basically his dad tries to kill him and suck out his boy juice, so he can be a boy again. So it's very interesting. I don't want to ruin it too much, but it is an older film. But there's not much to really talk about either, because it's a slasher film, but with little puppets. Very well designed puppets, by the way. They are very good. That's the thing with the Ghoulies series. As the movies go on, the puppets only get better, which is remarkable. If you really think about it. But yes, I did watch The Ghastlies, which is a 2017 film.
Here we go.
Boy, oh boy, it's like somebody in high school just wanted to do a film project. So the opening scene, you have these Satanists about to sacrifice this girl for a ritual, quote unquote. And guess who Satanist number 3 is? He's a guy wearing that red skull, shiny mask that you always see around Halloween time that nobody ever buys at Walmart. And then so they're about to sacrifice, and then a spinning saucer. Now I'm not even lying when I say that it's made out of fun foam, and it's about the size of a fist.
Fuck.
And it lands on the roof of the barn, and they're using force perspective so hard in this film, and it doesn't work out at all. So they're like, and so the Satanists start wondering, oh, what's going on? They're about to summon a demon, and then the spaceship lands, and then this is where the creatures come, and then all you see is one of the Satanists getting its throat ripped out. Not even ripped out, but just blood coming from his throat and falling down, and then it just says, oh, present day. But unfortunately, it doesn't tell you present day is supposed to be in the 80s.
What? Alright.
Because it's set in the 80s. It says 5 years ago when the starts out. Because everybody is dressed in 80s clothes, and all they're listening to is 80s.
Of course.
And music is a broad term for it, because apparently the entire soundtrack was done by some nobody, and it's all just a whole bunch of synth-board pop. That's just not even that good. It's just it repeats the chorus like a billion times, and you switch to a different song.
Awesome.
But and so so fast forward, there's these sorority girls. So this girl's working out, and this guy comes out in the house and like creeps through her, like pries open the door a little bit and starts looking at her while she's working out. And she's doing one of those really like sensual 80s dance workouts, you know?
Of course, yep.
Yeah.
And she's working it, and you see her face, and she's like 42 years old. And this is supposed to be a college student who's in a sorority.
Yep.
I see that the twists start pretty early on at this one. Yeah.
Oh yes, at 3 minutes in, so after working out in front of her mirror in her own bedroom, listening to some weird background elevator music, she starts taking off her top, and you get a full frontal, and that's when you really see like how old she is. But I mean, she's in pretty good shape. Don't get me wrong, but it's pretty impressive after seeing the face and get, she is fit, but she is not a spring chicken.
On this, are you?
It is, and I tried to look up the actress's age, but she's been in nothing else except for one other like indie film, and so there's no actual information on her.
Indie film is quite generous.
No, I mean the other one was actually an indie film. Like it was the film that actually had production.
Alright.
He was before this one though, and she had a really, really minor part in it. I know, a minor part in any film, but and then it turns out his boyfriend is Peeping Tom, and then they're like, oh well, and so fast forward, her and her sorority sisters, and then one of the girls she's known since they were little girls go out to a cabin. They rented a cabin to have a sorority party, and there's this one girl, and she's basically like Velma. Like, she's got long red hair, and she's like, I like books, blah 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 books, you know, and she's like really stereotypical, and all the girls are teasing her because all of them are sororities, and all of them have boyfriends and get it every night, and then, but like, this girl is like, 27, 28, this Velma character, and then, but the main girl, the Velma character turns into the main girl by the end of the film.
Of course.
And in quotation marks. But the girl you're first introduced to, the leader of the sorority, she's the one, and she's like 40 years old. She's like, yeah, I remember growing up with you. You know, we play. She's 2 years younger than me, and this girl's like 27. And there's an obvious, like, that is huge, especially with the terrible lighting they have. Like, it's so apparent, like, that she is so much older than all the other girls, because all the other girls are in the late 20s, early 30s, which is still way too old. But it's really bad, and one of them is like a dimwit. Like, she's so stupid. Like, she is just like beyond. Like, her part is just so stupid. Like, she goes on and on and on about a stupid thing. It doesn't even matter what it is about. She just doesn't understand basic concepts. What was it? She's like, oh yeah, they're talking about the first guy that felt you up or whatever. By the campfire, it's like, oh yeah, I remember Tommy Boo from down the lane felt you up once, didn't you, Clarence? She's like, yeah. And then one girl, that's the really dumb one's like, yeah, the first boy that felt me up was my cousin Clarence. And, you know, he was the kind of one, you know, that ate peanut butter with his fingers, you know.
Yep.
And then everybody's just looking at it. It's like, yeah, so his hands were kind of sticky all the time. So it was really the first time he felt me up. And then everybody's just looking at it. She keeps going on about the story. It's like, yeah, there's something weird about his side of the family, just not liking utensils. And it's just like, she just goes on these long rants, these just stupid stories that don't make any sense. And then everybody.
And this doesn't like contribute anything like to the plot, like, does it?
No. It doesn't add any. Like, at first it's a little bit funny, and then it just gets more annoying as the movie goes on.
So is this
It's so bad.
the room of horror movies?
No, this is not even no. This is
Sterling, please, Sterling, stop.
This is so bad, because like I told you before, like, okay, so all the girls and all the guys get killed off, except for the Velma character, who now has lost her glasses, become, you know, I'm not Velma anymore. And then she met a boy that one of the boys had brought, and he dies unexpectedly, and so it's just her left. And then there's neighbors to this cabin that they're renting, and the neighbors somehow know about the aliens who are trapped in the locked hatch in the middle of the field. And so he starts helping them kill people to feed them, because they're just darn little carnivores. And he accidentally shoots one, but it's fine. One of the creatures. And then and so what they do is this married couple, the husband is super old, and the wife is like in her late 20s or early 30s. You know, again, it's a weird matchup, because apparently it's supposed to be the same age or something like that. Or around the same age, and so what they do is so her new guy, her love interest, is being eaten on by the creatures, and you're like, oh, something's gonna happen, he's gonna save her or something like that, you know, because the human counterparts are now like holding her hostage, and so they throw her down the hatch where the aliens were living and just lock it, and then a whole bunch of flying saucers descend, and then just says "end?" ? And so there's like so all the creatures are alive. One is missing an eyeball because it got shot out. All the people are... so we still have 3 human survivors. And so 2 are working with the aliens, and 1 is not. And then after that, it just shows a couple of frames of the girl that's still alive, dressing in a camo, having a minigun, and then it just skips to the animated short.
Awesome.
So I'm looking this up now. This was put out in 2016.
Yes.
When you were talking about this, I thought that this was put out in like the 80s or 90s.
No. This is a throwback film. Also, the ending theme, the entire cast sings it.
Oh, good.
Like
I
during the
bet
credits.
it's very charming.
Yes, during the credits.
All right.
It's a stupid little ditty of words that barely rhyme, of lines that barely rhyme, talking about the Ghastlies and how they're aliens from space, and somehow giving us some sort of shred of backstory that the movie never gave, because these things never talk, they just laugh. And they just do the same laugh every single time. I mean, the creatures aren't even proper puppets. They're just plushes in little stands.
They're fucking horrifying looking, is what they are. Sterling, I'm about to send you this because I want you to get context here. These things are horrifying.
And then, of course, I watched the Island of Dr. Moreau, the 1970s version.
Yeah. With what's his name? The famous actor?
Michael York.
No, the other dude. The actual.
Burt Lancaster.
The Doctor Boy.
Yeah, Burt Lancaster. Yeah.
Wasn't there
That was
one
really good.
with the guy who did The Godfather or whatever?
What?
The one with the cotton balls in his mouth?
I didn't know. I didn't hear what you originally said.
Oh, I said, isn't there Doctors Moreau, whatever?
There's a couple different ones. There was one that was made for TV.
Yeah,
and one
it
that
was
not.
probably the one with made for TV. But yeah, go on.
And so, so Island of Dr. Monroe, if you never read the class, I don't want to spoil anything. It's already been spoiled by a lot of media. There's a lot of stuff that makes fun of it.
Especially The Simpsons.
Oh, yes. It's just had quite a field day in that Treehouse Horror about that one. But it's not really a horror film as much as it is. It's kind of like a thriller in a sense, because it's not really about fearing something or someone, but it's more the fear of the unknown, and the fear that it strikes in the hearts of man type of thing. But it was really well done. It was definitely a classic. I think it did. I read the book in high school, so I think it did pretty well to the book as far as that goes. And MC, that's why this is one that everybody recommends, is the 70s version. So, it was a good one. I definitely give that one 8.5 out of 10. It's definitely, it has a good cast. It's got decent practical effects for a movie of its time. So. And it has an ending, so that's pretty good too.
Oh, of course.
I love it when movies end. That's my favorite.
Or, of course, set up a huge universe, you know.
But just remember, pure evil, bite-sized.
Yeah.
They got this thing on Blu-ray. How did they ever afford to put it on Blu-ray? I don't even know.
It's a combo, though.
I guess they couldn't sell the Blu-ray any other way.
Yep.
Now, Josiah, I have to ask because I am slightly curious. Is this a October a tradition for you, where every year you see if you can find the campiest horror movies possible and just give them a watch, or is this like a bit of a new thing for you?
The last couple of years, I've been watching a lot more horror films around this time. It's really just a mixed bag. I don't like to keep to one theme. Okay. So I browse Netflix or Amazon Prime and just see what's available, because like a lot of these ones I am seeing, like Pumpkin, like the original Pumpkinhead, an American Werewolf in Paris. Here we go. Transformers: The Last Knights, which for some reason is the horror section. The Monster Squad, The Howling 2, The Burbs with Tom Hanks.
The Burbs, of course, yes.
Jeepers Creepers 2, RoboCop, also in the horror section for some reason. You Can't Kill Stephen King. I haven't seen that one. I probably won't ever watch that one, though. But Child's Play, they have a lot of classic Jaws, Dead Rising, Watchtower, Sleepaway Camp. Oh, they have Chopping Mall. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes.
I remember Ben was talking about that one.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually watched Chopping Mall last year for some of my Spooktober watches. So, or maybe the year before, I can't remember. But I usually watch at least a good 10, 15 films every Halloween just to get myself in the spirit. And it's usually when they're most available on the streaming services. So,
Of course.
but then again, there's also times of the year where I just watch spooky movies, like when I went through and watched all the H.P. Lovecraft adaptations last February. So, at least the ones I hadn't seen yet. I already seen things like Dagon and what's that one? Event Horizon.
Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah.
But which, man, oh man, if they wouldn't have lost those deleted scenes in those Romanian salt mines, man, I would have loved to see the deleted scenes for Event Horizon. Because apparently there's 40 minutes of just that torture sequence.
Yep.
But
Yes.
yeah, it's just something that me and a couple of friends who live around here like to do a whole bunch. We talk about it on Facebook and talk about it at work and such like that. So it's a fun time. Of course, usually on Halloween I like to watch 3 Evil Dead movies. So
Of course.
you know, wouldn't want to anger Jesus by not watching.
I don't really get over the big fella skin.
And then, gosh, what day is Dios de Muertos this year? Because then I'm gonna have to watch Coco.
Jeez Louise. It usually goes around.
Let's see. Google, what day is those? Okay, yeah, so it starts Halloween and ends on November 2nd.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the time.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I know it happens every year, but now that there's a movie about it from Disney, I gotta start remembering now.
Of course, yep. But yeah, is there any extremely other tradition that you do, Matthew, during the Halloween, or you just sit back and you're like, I don't really watch these movies at all, or what's up?
I would like to make slightly more horror themed stuff a bit of a tradition for Halloween for me. The only tradition, the yearly one that I used to follow
Is watching
for
Jingle All the Way on Christmas, yep.
Oh boy, buddy. Buddy, oh boy. Don't tell me like this.
Yeah.
No,
No, it's Thanksgiving a month early.
Yeah.
back when I was a bit more of a edgelord, I would every 5th of November pop in
Of
good old
course,
V
yeah.
for Vendetta and just stare at it for my yearly viewing. And now I haven't done that for a couple years. Probably still my favorite movie. It's just I don't feel the need to go back to it again.
Yeah.
The draw's not there. There.
I mean, you still have your, V for Vendetta mask, and then, your anonymous mask and your fedora.
I no longer have any.
Oh, I'm sorry,
form
Trilby.
of,
You still have the
Yes.
Trilby.
I have lost my fedora. It
Yes.
is gone to time. It's been gone for about a good 5 years. But I do have the V for Vendetta graphic novel, which is also quite nice to look at. But no, as far as a horror themed stuff is concerned, I have no problems with making this a bit more of a yearly tradition, especially now that I have a wide pool of online friends who I can also check out a film. So
So is
I
there,
wouldn't mind making something like this a tradition, but for now, no, October hasn't really held any stuff like that for me, to be honest.
So is there any extreme series of horror movies or franchises that you would like to go through whenever you feel like doing a tradition?
Oh yeah.
I am a fan of Halloween,
Oh,
and
Yeah, of course, it's Spooktober. Everybody's a fan of Halloween.
look at all that free junk food.
uh-huh.
I would like to check out the full franchise.
Have you
sooner
not
or
done that
later.
yet, or have you?
Oh no. I am not much of a horror guy by a default, so even like the one horror franchise that I'm like, yeah, I do enjoy this one. To like even for that, I've only seen like 2 of the movies, so I'm simply not geared much towards the genre in the first place. To be honest with you,
Uh-huh.
just never been a big horror guy.
Yeah, for me, it's always been like an extreme afterthought with like, oh, it's Halloween, I'll get to it eventually, like Halloween time.
Yeah.
But like, whenever I was like super small and like mi padre was like, oh hey, we got this newfangled thing called Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
And you were like, holy smokes, Pa. Padre.
And
This is gonna stay here forever.
and for like around like I'm guessing age 4 and up to like I guess age 10, he would always
That's about
get
right.
like Hellraiser, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on
Hellraiser
Elm
in space?
Street, all that Cracker Jacks, like all those horror movies. He would just like sit me in front of that TV and like, hey, you want to watch something cool, boy? I'm like, I got nothing to do. I'm only a 4-year-old.
You must learn, my son.
So yeah, that's pretty much where like all that stuff came from. Like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Mijo, it's time to learn.
Yeah, and pretty much like that. And of course, I remember all that stuff, but I don't really extremely remember like the extreme movies and how they were like, I guess, scene for scene. So, of course, now that I'm
Gotta go
older,
back.
I gotta go back to the past. And pretty much I went through, of course, as I explained on the last podcast, but I've went through all all franchises of Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then I guess this Halloween, or in this Halloween time, I recently got the Friday the 13th whole franchise, and I'm raring up to go through all this. And I was thinking of doing the Halloween one, but I remembered that, oh yeah, I've already seen like most of these, so I'm like, yeah, I'll put them to the next year. So yeah, that's where that sits, unless there's another franchise that I'm forgetting that is like one of the more popular ones. But other than that, yeah.
Wishmaster.
Puppet Master, no. I actually did watch like all of the Puppet Master movies like a little bit of a while ago, like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and I could not watch any of them. I was just like super bored out of my mind.
Apparently the newest one is supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, they're all Nazis now, so of course. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing extremely traditional except for just, yo, what's that franchise? All right, get in, boy. You look good.
Get in, I got sugar skulls for everybody. with the meringue cream on them. Tastes real good.
So yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on this Halloween tradition. So are we good for calling this a podcast, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Sterling,
Yes?
now that we are together, we have to take 30 seconds to knock off what we've been holding off on.
Is this a proposal on the internet?
And what is this?
Now,
Michael?
Sterling,
Yes.
you talked a big game about how much you loved Lavalantula too.
Yes, I do.
Oh boy. I can't believe I missed out on you guys talking about Lavalantula.
Yeah.
Now, what was your favorite line from it? We don't have to talk
Oh
about
my
it.
gosh,
We don't have
Gargantulantula
to talk
is
about
my
this,
favorite
like,
line.
extensively.
Yeah.
But go ahead and just give me your favorite line.
Gargantulantula is my favorite line
Fuck,
in the
that was
entire
written
movie.
down for me too.
Yeah. Like the build-up of like, oh my gosh, this is gargantuan, and it's a lavalantula. It's gargantulantula.
That's not a Waffalantula, that's a Gargantulantula.
Yeah, like that whole movie, man. It's
Yeah.
it's a ride. It's a ride. Definitely one of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen.
Right. The standout favorites for me, apart from Gargantulantula,
Uh-huh.
was the line, "That boat's got a flat tire, so we can't use it."
Yeah.
And let's not forget the joke that, what's his face? I can't remember the main character's name.
Uh-huh.
But,
I always call him Cop Guy.
yeah, the joke about, hey, that fire outside doesn't look very good. it's like, listen, sometimes with modern CG, we can only do so much with it. Sometimes we just have to make do with as good of fire effects as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god!
I also like the part where they first come out, like the lavalantulas, and that little girl's like, they're here. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh my god! All right, you got me, movie. You got me.
I believe there was at least one line about the most infamous hero of the modern era, Florida Man.
Yep.
At least one good Florida Man title grab of some kind, like some joke. I can't remember where it was, but that came up once, and I was certain that was pretty intentional. So I got a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
Florida Man does something terrible, big fire spider causing a lot of problems, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Okay, we can wrap it up. I just wanted to give you a second or two to get that off your chest because you wanted that off your chest.
Yeah, I do. I give that movie a 10 out of 10.
I give that movie a 10 out of 10.
Yep. It's one of the best.
I give that movie a Ben out of 10.
Let's move on.
So,
The one Cartoon Network property that will never die.
yep.
Yes, sir.
Anything you're looking forward to, Matthew?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yep. I was about to say that.
Uh-huh.
I am looking forward to playing Castlevania 1 because it's horror month, and I've got to get the horror down pat. I'm going to be doing Castlevania 1 for 20% arcade, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm very confident that I can beat it in one sitting, and I'm certainly going to need to because I'm not heading all the way back to my buddy's place to do a second sitting just for a single Castlevania playthrough. That's too much. So I'm gonna knock it off all in one. Fingers crossed on those last two boss battles because that's when things get dicey.
Oh boy.
Beyond that, yeah.
And then after that, of course, with Simon's Quest, yeah?
I am beating Castlevania 1, and then we are taking a break on Castlevania titles for a while.
Okay. Alright.
So you're wussing out. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So anything you're looking forward to, Josiah?
Well, I'm gonna be finishing Transylvania 3 tonight. That's my movie for today.
Transylvania.
And then I also got Hereditary to watch for tomorrow or the next day.
Is that the first time or the second time you watched?
First time for Hereditary. And second time for Hotel Transylvania 3.
Alright. You done, boy? Or is
Yeah, that's about it for me right now. There's nothing really. Gosh, I mean, have you seen what Illumination is doing to the new Grinch movie? Excited. The Grinch Strange has a reindeer this time for some reason. I don't know why. You don't know why. Huge plot point that he never had a reindeer. But no, let's just remix it. Let's just remix it like a phoenix. Yep.
Yep.
So, speaking of remixing like a phoenix, that new Joker character, played by Phoenix himself.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to be very good.
Yeah, I
don't think the Joker needs a backstory. I think it's much better that the Joker never has a backstory. It kind of makes him the enigma that he is. Or it's like a fake backstory.
I can agree with that.
So, and people are saying it's going to be really great and this and that, but it's like too many Jokers in too little time. It's just
It's like the whole beginning Batman movies all over again.
The problem is that we've lived too long. We've seen too many Jokers. Already in our time. I mean, I'm sure the younger audience doesn't understand as much.
Yeah.
But for us, who've lived through so many Jokers already, it's just... DC, the way the DC beats Marvel is to just back off for a little bit.
Yeah.
Get its stuff together. Let Shazam still come out on time. And
wait on Shazam.
Yeah, let that Shazam money come in, and then think about your next step. Also, cancel Aquaman and just kind of sell all those assets. All that, just sell all that footage to some eccentric person, and then try and make at least your money back.
Yeah, sell it to the director of Gasly's.
But let me tell you, that first great step was hiring James Gunn or whatever his name is, to direct Suicide Squad 2. So I'm actually excited for Suicide Squad, a sentence I never thought that I would ever utter.
I don't know.
So that's stuff to look forward to.
I think that's just a ploy to get people that weren't to get them excited.
Hey, it's at the very. I mean, I'm not saying I have high expectations for it, but at least it's got me interested in it.
Fair.
To be honest, I think that the way that DC is going to pump out the maximum possible quality content is by focusing more on its animated stuff, but they're not going to do that because that's not where the cash is.
Well, okay, the problem started is when they tried to match Marvel's.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the thing is that they didn't have all these directors or all this continuity already lined up.
Yeah.
So they can't directly compete. So why don't every 2 or 3 years they just release a really good banger instead of having to do half movie reshoots halfway through the filming of a film, like 6 weeks before it comes out. Like they're pushing themselves in the grave with this because they're that kid who's just trying to get through calculus and keeps waiting the night before to do the homework, but it's more homework than you could do the night before. And so it's just it never comes. And Wonder Woman was okay. Like that's the thing. It wasn't Wonder Woman was okay. It was okay. It was like it was basically as good as the standard set of Marvel films. Like, and that's the best they've had so far. So. I think that you just need to pick some of the more out there heroes, like Plastic Man, or Shazam, or some of the more lovable extreme characters that could get a fan following from this because they're interesting. See, you can't fight fire with movies. It doesn't work like that, not unless you have a bigger and better budget. And DC does not have a bigger and better budget.
Not than the MCU.
Yeah, and so how do they distinguish themselves? They get out like the most ridiculous ones, the most ridiculous comic book characters that have at least some sort of following,
Yeah.
and start doing films on those,
Like Swamp Thing.
Or Swamp Thing, or what's his like Hangliner Man, or Kite Man. That's his name.
Yep.
Kite Man. Yeah.
I would have accused you of making that up if it was Hand Glider Man, but Kite Man is just...
I forget because I always see it.
Yeah.
The Kite Man with the hang glider in front of I Hate Everything's videos.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And if they're gonna do Aquaman, at least do the Aquaman that gets pissed off because people are starting to like ask him personal questions in Denny's.
Yep. Uh-huh.
That's the thing is there's a lot to be had with these out there, a little bit out there, not so safe, not so polished Disney superhero films that you can make a lot of money with. Like that's how Fox is actually making some money again. Of course, Venom tanked like everybody knew it was gonna.
Yep.
But
so I guess what I'm looking forward to, hopefully for like the 11th time, going back into Digimon Adventure 2 and finishing that crack. And it's getting to that week when Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out, which I was forced upon with whatchamacallit, a pre-order card for Christmas from last year. I'm like, alright, I guess I'll get that. So, yeah, it's getting to that time.
Wait, so you have like some kind of card that like it expires soon, or like what are you getting at?
It's pretty much it. You pre-order the game and they give you a card.
Oh, you pre-ordered Red Dead 2. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And it pretty much it's like a gift card of like use it at that point in time and you'll get like $5 off or whatever. Like
so Neo 2 is next, right?
Nope. Dead or Alive 6.
Sterling's back in for new games. This is what's happening, folks. You heard it here first.
Dead or Alive 6 is the only thing that I'm ever looking forward to.
That doesn't sound like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, but whatever, man.
Yeah. Other than that, I think I'm good with what I'm looking forward to. So, who wants to sign us off? Josiah, you wanna do the honors, Josiah?
What do we say, boys?
Don't
get eliminated.
Bye. Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.